Hello again. So would 2,000 Rand be enough to bring you the wedding of your dreams? Well, a couple in Port Elizabeth has proved it is possible. They opted to save for their marriage rather than spend on their wedding day. It's a move our next guests also adopted. They appeared before the altar in just jeans and T-shirts. Their reception was held at the airport and they dashed off to Wimpy for a bite to eat before jetting off on honeymoon. I'm joined in studio by comedian Jason Goliath and his wife, Sian, who tied the knot last month. Sian Goliath. Hello.
Sian Goliath.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Good morning. Amazing. Very married. Thanks. How are you?
Right. Sian, let me start with you. The typical girl, and I say that in inverted commas, you grow up, you see the white wedding, you cut the pictures. If you're that serious, you've got a whole album, and comes your wedding day, and you're in jeans and sneakers. How?
I think, like, at our stage of our lives, you know, he's 38, I'm 37. This is a super important day, and what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we just decided that let's just focus on ourselves. We're both in an industry where we always have to give, you know, of ourselves, whether it's making clients happy, people laugh, and this was a super important day. And as long as our moms were happy, we were fine. So,
and
yeah,
that's my next question, right, Goliath? Because then when you grow up, also you know that your wedding is not yours. It's your parents' wedding.
Yes.
You must do the whole street things. We must li all over.
There must be beetroot and biryani.
Yeah, all of that. How did your parents react when you told them that, listen, this is what we want to do?
So I gotta be honest. Like, you know, I think first of all, our moms are amazing, and not only are they amazing, but they're also very modern for their age in the sense that they understand that we're not 25. And, you know, both of our moms had kind of been whispering for a while because, let's not lie, we did think about and, in fact, plan a traditional white wedding. And it got to a point where we just looked at the amount of people, looked at what it was going to cost, and then you kind of have a moment where you go, why am I spending this money on these people?
Do you even know half of them?
Some of them are just that auntie that your mother's like, no, we can't get married without Auntie Trudy, man. You know what I mean? Now you're inviting Auntie Trudy. You haven't seen Auntie Trudy in years.
Right.
She's got a mustache now. You can't even recognize her. So we got to a point where, sorry, Auntie Trudy, we got to a point where we were like, essentially, long story short, a friend of mine, we got a contract from the wedding venue that we were going to use, and we bumped into a friend of mine that evening, a guy named Buddy, and he said to me, listen, how's the wedding going? And I said, look, I saw the contract this morning, and yeah, this thing is it's not a joke, but, you know, we're doing it. And he said, look, I gave my wife the most 5-star wedding in the world, but it was just the two of us. And I said, what do you mean? And he said to her, let's spend all of this money. He said, it's not about spending the money. The money is a celebration as a foundation of the rest of our lives. So it's not about the money, because we'd saved and prepared for a white wedding, but let's spend all this money on ourselves. And we went on a bucket list honeymoon. We had a white wedding on the beach in the Maldives, which was just something from a fairy tale. And essentially, as Sian said, for 12 days, we were the most important people in our world. You know, for 12 days, we were able to prioritize almost selfishly, in a very beautiful way, ourselves. And I think that we are both very grateful for the decision.
And I think our family and friends are just happy that we found our person.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And
I also just want to make sure, because, you know, people like to kekelez, especially I know El Dorado Park is watching. We are sitting far away from each other because it's conducive for the cameras.
It's for TV.
Not because the love. You know what I mean? I'm still very much on honeymoon. That's why I just snuck my hand under just so.
Just be comfortable. And the sneaker game is so on point.
Thank you. Stand it.
But Sian, I want to ask you this. You know, we always stress about the wedding, but taking care of the marriage after that day is something else.
Yeah. I think that from day one, when Jason put the ring on my finger, he said, like, you are my wife. This isn't a test run. From this day, you are my wife.
And from the day I proposed.
From the day that you proposed. And I think that we adopted that mindset, and it's just been, this is just the formality. And so that our mothers don't think we're living in sin, which is important. And I think that during that period we grew stronger. We, you know, decided what do we want, where are we going to in terms of our careers, and
what type of life do we want to live?
And just like what makes us happy, and it's just been it's just been amazing.
Goliath,
really.
it sounds like communication is very important in your relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Communication.
Public relations.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm in PR.
hey, I get told. Hey.
We're going to talk about everything in this house. How important is that? Or how has that helped you? Have you always been a communicator?
So I've always been a storyteller, and I think that there's a difference, because people assume that because you're a comedian you must be a great. So I'm very good at communicating, but of course true communication is a two-way, so you've got to not only hear but you've got to listen. And I think that the biggest lesson that I've learned, because Sian and I have been living together for just over a year and a half, almost 2 years now actually, and the biggest lesson I learned is that there's a very big difference between hearing somebody and listening to somebody. And I think that's the part of communication that Sian has kind of taught me, is that very often, because we're so busy, we're so rushed, and we seem to, as South Africans, be living here, with our dukes are up, we're always ready to strike out. And sometimes you predict, or and I have, because there are times of let's say, of the month, that she hears and doesn't listen. And then I keep saying to her, don't have conversations with that guy in your head, have a conversation with me. You know what I mean? I'm here. Don't think about what I would say and be angry already before. You know what I mean? So communication is the absolute foundation in terms of the current situation, so where we are, the past, especially for somebody, that we met when I was 35, Sian was 34. So there was a past that needed to be not explained but shared. So that part of the communication. But I think a very big part for us is also we understand where we're going, what we want, and we keep double checking that we're on the same page and we feel the same way.
And like the first date was 20 questions. So, what do you do? How many kids do you want? This and this and that. And it was just like, it was literally an interview. Because I think that... I wasn't prepared to waste another 5 years, another 4 years,
another 3 months,
another 3 months or whatever on a relationship, and it's just it was just so different. And I think that once you have found your person, you would do what is needed in order to make it work. So you will be more tolerant, you will be you will be kinder, and I think that especially with areas of conflict, our approach is rather, this is what upset me or annoyed me, and this is why. So can we kind of figure out not to do this or meet halfway? And I know people think that's airy-fairy, but it's the truth. It's like it's not a thing of who's right, who's wrong. Sometimes you have to swallow your pride and go, okay, I was wrong.
For this?
And I think that we live in a very, very selfish society where we just think of ourselves all the time, and I think that's what makes our relationship perfect. Yes, we are individuals, but we're a unit, and this is where we are going, and let's just make all our decisions kind of match up to where we were.
It sounds like it was two individuals who knew themselves as well, who were comfortable with themselves coming 100%. Together, because oftentimes the mismatch comes in maybe when the one person doesn't know themselves and they're looking for somebody else to complete them instead of complement them. How do you keep the outside noise out? First comes the wedding, then comes the kids, then comes the house and the picket fence.
So in terms of keeping the outside world out, I think that we are fortunate enough to have existed for a long time before meeting each other in a world that is not conventional. So not the standard corporate route, not the average job, not the standard corporate office hours. So that meant that already I think we were kind of out of the kind of rat race of the system and just kind of following the machine and the way everything else happens. So it was also for us very important, and I have to touch on that point, but I think that, Sian says that our first date was 20 questions, because it literally was, because we didn't want to waste any time, but that was because we were also happy to stay alone and happy. And I think it was so important that both of us, and I think that's what we saw and identified in each other, is that I was happy to be single for the rest of my life. I was happy to be that uncle that all of the aunties don't like, because I'm still single and I drive a sports car and I have young, you know what I mean? And it was that, I think, that created the difference. So the reason I said to Sian, after I proposed, I said, I went down on my knee as your boyfriend, but I stood up as my husband, because I didn't propose kind of as a gesture or as a maybe. And I think across South African culture, a lot of times we're now proposing for many different reasons. I proposed because I realized that I did not want to spend the rest of my life without this woman. I wanted to, you know what I mean? So sometimes you don't know what you want, but you know what you don't want, and what I didn't want was to, I know that I want to be with this forever.
Ish, man, I feel like I was just in church for a little bit. I'm like, yes, Jesus, hallelujah. But thank you very much, guys, for talking to us this morning. You are the epitome of break the mold. Be with somebody that sets fire to your soul. And we're glad you guys found each other. Long may it last.
Thank you for having us. I just want to make it clear. So to everybody out there, don't follow anybody. Just follow yourself. Do you. And I think that's the most important part. It wasn't about impressing anybody. It wasn't about the money. It was about what's best for us. Because after the wedding, the two of you go into your room alone, you lay in your bed alone, you pay the bills alone. So do what's good for you. For us, we did the right thing, and I hope you do the right thing. Good luck with you. I mean, what's happening there?
I have no pressure here.
Nothing. Nothing.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. And that's where we leave it. Thank you to comedian Jason Goliath and his wife, Sian Goliath. Up next, Michael McKenna with All Things Sports.